First Contact and Ultimatum. Captain Elena Reyes had been commanding the International Space Station Alpha for nearly 6 months when humanity discovered they weren't alone in the universe. She was logging maintenance reports when every screen in the command module suddenly flickered to static. "Systems check," she called out, her years of training kicking in. "What just happened?" Lieutenant Sato looked up from his console, his expression a mixture of confusion and awe. "Captain, you need to see this." The main viewscreen cleared to reveal what could only be described as a fleet. Dozens of massive vessels had appeared seemingly from nowhere at the edge of Earth's orbit, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian under the sun. They were massive, each one easily the size of a small city, and arranged in a perfect geometric formation that no human armada could achieve. "My God," Elena whispered, the maintenance report forgotten. "Get me Houston. Now." Within an hour, every communication device on Earth simultaneously activated. Television broadcasts, radio stations, phone systems, and internet connections were all hijacked by the same transmission. The face that appeared wasn't human. It had iridescent blue skin stretched over sharp facial bones, 4 pupilless eyes that gleamed like polished silver, and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. "People of Earth," the voice thundered, somehow perfectly translated into every Earth language simultaneously. "I am Supreme Admiral Zax Vol of the Vraxian Empire. Your primitive planet has been selected for immediate integration into our dominion. You will surrender all governmental authority to our representatives within 48 of your Earth hours. Resistance is not recommended. Those who cooperate will be permitted to live as productive servants of the Empire. Those who resist will be eliminated. This is the only communication you will receive before our deadline." The message ended abruptly, leaving billions of humans staring at screens in stunned silence. For approximately 17 seconds. Then something happened that the Vraxian Empire, with its 10,000-year history of conquering primitive worlds, had never encountered before. Humans began to laugh. In New York's Times Square, where thousands had gathered to watch the message on the giant screens, someone in the crowd shouted, "Did they seriously just use the 'resistance is futile' line?" That's so 1990s. The tension broke, and laughter rippled through the crowd. In Lagos, Nigeria, a street vendor selling mobile phones immediately changed his sign to read, "Buy now before the alien overlords raise our prices." In Tokyo, a group of teenagers were already filming reaction videos, mimicking the aliens' pompous tone and adding dance moves. And in the White House Situation Room, President Isabella Chen watched the reactions pouring in from around the world with growing amazement. "Madam President," her national security advisor said, sliding a tablet across the table, "social media is exploding. #alien invasion failed is trending worldwide." President Chen looked at the feed. Someone had already created a remix of the alien message set to a dance beat, with millions of views in just minutes. Another viral post showed a cat looking unimpressed with the caption, "My cat's reaction to being told he's now a productive servant of the Vraxian Empire." "This isn't the reaction I expected," she admitted, a small smile tugging at her lips despite the gravity of the situation. General Marcus Way, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, cleared his throat. "Madam President, while I appreciate the public's resilience, we need to take this threat seriously. Those ships represent technology far beyond our own." "I am taking it seriously, General," President Chen replied, her smile fading. "But I also think there's something important happening here. The people aren't panicking. They're laughing. And laughter in the face of intimidation is a uniquely human response." Dr. Aisha Bello, the recently appointed director of the new Global Exobiology Division, nodded in agreement. The Admiral's approach suggests they've used this same script many times before. It's formulaic, almost bureaucratic. They're expecting fear, submission, maybe desperate resistance. They're not prepared for mockery. In orbit, Captain Alina Reyes received new orders: maintain observation of the alien fleet and prepare for possible evacuation. But as she watched the news feeds from Earth, she couldn't help but share in the peculiar sense of defiant amusement that seemed to be spreading across her home planet. "What are they doing now, Lieutenant?" she asked, hovering behind Sato's station. "Nothing, Captain. They delivered their message and now they're just sitting there." He looked up at her with a puzzled expression. "It's like they dropped their ultimatum and then went to lunch." Alina frowned. "No attempts to disable our satellites. No targeting of military installations. No show of force. None, Captain. They're just waiting. Interesting." She tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Send a message to Houston. I think our visitors might not have much experience with actual resistance." On the Vraxian flagship, Supreme Admiral Zax Vol was experiencing something unfamiliar: confusion. He stood before the ship's monitoring array, watching streams of Earth's communications with growing disbelief. "Sub-Commander Trell," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Explain these reactions. Why are the humans producing these entertainment products about our ultimatum?" Sub-Commander Trell's silver eyes darted nervously. "I cannot explain with certainty, Supreme Admiral. Our Xenopsychology division suggests they might be using humor as a stress response." "Humor?" Zax Vol repeated the unfamiliar word with distaste. "This is not the protocol. The protocol is clear. Primitive species receive ultimatum. Primitive species experiences fear. Primitive species surrenders. This has worked on 47 consecutive planets. The humans appear to be anomalous, Supreme Admiral." Zax Vol's upper left eye twitched, a sign of extreme irritation among his species. "Show me their defensive capabilities." The view screen shifted to show Earth's military assets: aircraft carriers, fighter jets, missile silos, all hopelessly primitive compared to Vraxian technology. "As you can see, Supreme Admiral, they pose no threat to us. Their most advanced weapons could not penetrate even our tertiary shields." "Then why aren't they afraid?" Zax Vol demanded, slamming a four-fingered hand against the console. "Send another message. Be more specific about the consequences of resistance." "Supreme Admiral." Trell hesitated. "The protocol specifies only one communication before." "I know the protocol." Zax Vol snapped. "The protocol also assumes a rational response from the target species. These humans are not behaving rationally. Send another message." Back on Earth, President Chen had assembled an emergency coalition of world leaders, military commanders, and scientific experts. Despite the diverse perspectives gathered around the table, there was surprising consensus. "The fact that they're giving us time suggests they're either supremely confident or following a standard procedure," said Premier Lai of China. "Either way, it gives us an opportunity." "An opportunity to do what exactly?" asked Prime Minister Nkosi of the African Union. "We've all seen their ships. We have nothing that can match that level of technology." Alina Reyes, connected via secure video link from the space station, spoke up. "With respect, Prime Minister, I've been observing their fleet for the past 6 hours. They're showing signs of organizational rigidity. Their ships maintain perfect formation at all times, no individual maneuvering or adaptation to local conditions. It's almost robotic." Dr. Bello nodded enthusiastically. "Captain Rice is right. Their communication was similarly rigid, a prepared speech, probably used many times before. This suggests a highly structured, possibly hierarchical civilization with strict protocols. Such systems often struggle when faced with unexpected variables. And humans," President Chen said with a slight smile, "are nothing if not unexpected variables." The meeting was interrupted by an aide rushing in. "Madam President, they're broadcasting again." This time, Admiral Zax Vol appeared noticeably less composed. His silver eyes narrowed as he spoke. "People of Earth, it appears there has been a misunderstanding. To clarify, resistance will result in planetary bombardment targeting your major population centers. We possess weapons capable of reducing your largest cities to ash in seconds. This is not an idle threat. You have 42 of your hours remaining to surrender all governmental authority." The transmission cut off abruptly. There was silence in the Situation Room for several seconds. Then General Wei cleared his throat. "Well, they sound rattled." A ripple of nervous laughter went around the table. "They're off script," Dr. Bello said, eyes gleaming with professional interest. "This wasn't part of their standard procedure. We've already disrupted their protocol just by not reacting as expected." President Chen leaned forward. "Then let's continue to be unexpected. I propose we respond directly, not with fear or aggression, but with something they clearly don't understand: humor and hospitality." "Hospitality." General Wei looked alarmed. "Madam President, with all due respect—" "Hear me out, General," Chen interrupted. "These aliens expect either submission or futile resistance. Let's give them neither. Instead, let's invite them to talk, to negotiate like civilized beings. And let's broadcast our invitation with all the warmth and good-humored humanity can muster." Outside the White House, the crowd that had gathered to watch for developments had turned into something more like a festival than a protest. People were sharing food, playing music, and displaying homemade signs with messages like "ET phone your manager" and "Whale trade pieces for spaceship rides." Similar scenes were playing out in cities around the world. In Rio de Janeiro, an impromptu carnival had broken out. In Mumbai, street vendors were selling hastily made Vraxian Empire Tour 2025 t-shirts. In Sydney, a group of surfers had paddled out into the harbor and formed a peace sign visible from orbit. Humanity's collective response seemed to be, "If these might be our last hours, let's spend them celebrating what makes us human." Captain Alina Reyes watched these developments from orbit with growing pride. "Lieutenant Sato," she said, "prepare to transmit a message to the alien flagship." "What message, Captain?" Elena smiled. "The most human message of all. Would you like to come over for dinner?" As the 48-hour deadline approached its halfway point, humanity wasn't cowering in fear or mobilizing for a hopeless war. Instead, they were doing what humans had always done in the face of the unknown: adapting, creating, connecting, and, most bafflingly to their would-be conquerors, laughing. In his command chamber, Admiral Zax Vol watched the continuing Earth broadcasts with mounting frustration. None of his extensive training had prepared him for this. Primitive species were supposed to be simple, predictable. These humans were anything but. "Supreme Admiral," Subcommander Trell reported, "we're receiving a direct transmission from the human orbital habitat." Zaxvol's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of surprise. "Display it." Captain Alina Rice's face appeared on screen, calm and professional but with the hint of a smile. "Admiral Zax Vol of the Vraxian Empire, this is Captain Alina Reyes of International Space Station Alpha, representing the United People of Earth. We've received your communications and would like to invite you to engage in diplomatic discussions before your stated deadline. As a gesture of goodwill, we extend an invitation for you or your representatives to join us for a cultural exchange and shared meal, either aboard our station or at a location of your choosing on Earth. We look forward to your response and the opportunity for peaceful dialogue." The message ended, leaving Zaxvol staring at the screen in stunned silence. "Supreme Admiral," Trull ventured after several moments. "Your orders." Zaxvol continued to stare at the blank screen, his rigid protocol suddenly useless in the face of humanity's most powerful weapon, their unpredictability. "They want to feed us," he finally said, genuinely confused for perhaps the first time in his long career of conquest. As the Vraxian fleet hung in Earth orbit, silent and seemingly paralyzed by indecision, humanity continued its peculiar celebration of defiance through humor and connection. The stage was set for a confrontation unlike any the galaxy had seen before, one where humanity's greatest strength would prove to be not their weapons, but their smiles. The diplomatic dance. Admiral Zaxful paced the command deck of his flagship, the inevitable Dominion, his four-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back. The view screens surrounding him displayed various Earth broadcasts, each one more baffling than the last. "They are preparing for our arrival," reported Subcommander Trell, gesturing to footage of humans setting up elaborate tables in major capitals, with signs designating seats for Vraxian delegates. But not in any defensive manner. They appear to be organizing celebrations. "Deception," Zaxful declared, though with less certainty than he would have liked. "They seek to lower our guard." "Then why broadcast these preparations openly?" asked Science Officer Velnera, the only female in the command hierarchy. Her tone was carefully neutral, but her question cut to the heart of the commander's confusion. Zaxful stopped pacing and stared at a particular screen showing humans in New York City, collectively choreographing a dance routine apparently designed to welcome the aliens. The dancers wore homemade costumes mimicking what they imagined Vraxians might look like, most hilariously incorrect. "What is our protocol for this scenario?" he demanded. Troll's silver eyes darted nervously. "There is no protocol for this specific situation, Supreme Admiral. The closest applicable directive would be Protocol 87B. In cases of ambiguous native response, demonstrate superior force to clarify the power differential." Zaxful nodded slowly. "Prepare a demonstration. Target their largest uninhabited landmass, the northern frozen region. We will show them the power of a single Vraxian warship." "At once, Supreme Admiral." In the White House Situation Room, President Chen and her crisis team watched satellite footage of a single alien vessel breaking formation and moving to position over Antarctica. "They're going to attack," General Wei said grimly. Dr. Bello leaned forward, studying the vessel's movements. "But why Antarctica? There's nothing there except research stations." "Precisely," President Chen said. "They're planning a demonstration, not a massacre. They want to show us what they're capable of without triggering an all-out war response." "Should we evacuate the research stations?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "Already done," General Wei replied. "As soon as we detected the ship's movement, we initiated emergency protocols. All personnel are being airlifted out." President Chen nodded, then turned to her communications director. "Make sure this is broadcast worldwide. If they want to scare us, let's make sure everyone sees exactly what we're up against. Knowledge is power, even when it's knowledge of superior firepower." The alien vessel positioned itself over the eastern Antarctic ice shelf, far from any human habitation. A brilliant green beam lanced down from the ship, striking the ice with devastating precision. In seconds, a circular area 5 kilometers in diameter had been reduced to steaming water. The display of power was awesome and terrifying, a weapon beyond anything in Earth's arsenal. Yet the human response continued to defy Vraxian expectations. Instead of widespread panic, Earth's scientific community immediately began analyzing the weapon. Within hours, live-stream symposiums featured physicists and engineers discussing the probable mechanics of the energy beam, its limitations, and, most surprisingly to the watching aliens, potential countermeasures. "They're treating it like a puzzle," Velnera observed, watching these discussions with growing fascination. "Not as a threat, but as a challenge to be understood and solved." Zaxful's irritation was visible in the darkening blue of his skin. "They still do not comprehend their situation. Prepare a second demonstration." "Supreme Admiral," Velnera ventured cautiously, "perhaps we should consider accepting their invitation for dialogue. The elevated protocol permits negotiation when—" "We do not negotiate with primitive species," Zaxful snapped. "The elevated protocol applies only to civilizations with interstellar capability." "Of course, Supreme Admiral," she replied, lowering her eyes. But as she returned to her station, a troubling thought formed in her analytical mind. What if these humans weren't as primitive as they appeared? On Earth, the deadline was approaching its final 12 hours, and President Chen had made a bold decision. "We're going to answer their demonstration with one of our own," she announced to her team. Not of power, but of unity and determination. The plan was unprecedented. At the President's request, the United Nations convened an emergency session where, for the first time in history, every nation on Earth unanimously approved a resolution. Earth would not surrender, but neither would it initiate hostilities. Instead, it would extend one final invitation for peaceful dialogue. What made the resolution remarkable wasn't just its anonymity, but the method of its announcement. Every human on Earth with access to communication technology was asked to participate in a synchronized global broadcast. At precisely 1200 UTC, billions of humans turned their cameras to the sky and recorded the same brief message. "We come in peace. We choose friendship over fear. We invite you to talk, not fight. This is humanity's united response." The videos were instantly uploaded to a central server, algorithmically combined, and broadcast to the Vraxian fleet using every transmission method available. A chorus of billions of human voices speaking as one. Aboard the inevitable Dominion, the command crew watched in stunned silence. "How many participated in this transmission?" Zax-Fold finally asked. Trull consulted his instruments. Preliminary analysis suggests approximately 4.3 billion individual transmissions combined into one message. "Supreme Admiral." "Impossible," Zax-Fold whispered. "No species exhibits this level of coordination without hierarchical mind control." Yet they did it voluntarily, Velnera pointed out. Each transmission bears the markers of individual creation, freely given. The implications were disturbing. In all their conquests, the Vraxians had never encountered a species capable of such spontaneous unity while maintaining individual autonomy. It challenged their fundamental understanding of social organization. "Supreme Admiral," Trell interrupted his thoughts. "We're receiving another direct transmission, this time from the Human Global Leadership Assembly." "Display it," Zax-Fold ordered, his voice tight. The screen filled with the image of the United Nations General Assembly. At the podium stood President Chen, flanked by leaders from every major nation. "Admiral Zax-Fold," she began, her voice calm and measured. "We have witnessed your demonstration of power in Antarctica. We understand the message you intended to convey. In response, we have demonstrated something of our own, our unity and our preference for peaceful resolution. Your deadline expires in 11 hours. We will not be surrendering, but neither will we be initiating conflict. Instead, we extend one final invitation for dialogue. A delegation of Earth's leaders is prepared to meet with you at a neutral location of your choosing. The choice now is yours: meaningful conversation or unnecessary devastation. We await your response." As the transmission ended, Zax-Fold found himself in an unprecedented situation. In 300 years of military service, he had conquered 47 worlds, all following the same predictable pattern. None had ever proposed dialogue after witnessing Vraxian power. None had ever united so completely in their response, and none had ever made him question the protocols that had guided his entire career. "Your orders, Supreme Admiral," Trull prompted. After a long moment, Zax-Fold made his decision. "Prepare my shuttle. I will meet these humans." The announcement that the alien commander had accepted the invitation for talks sent a wave of cautious optimism across Earth. The chosen location was symbolic: the International Space Station Alpha, now positioned in geosynchronous orbit above the United Nations headquarters in New York. It was neutral territory, not Earth, but human-built, and its position made a powerful statement about humanity's shared achievements. Captain Alina Reyes had less than 6 hours to prepare the station for history's most important diplomatic meeting. Her small crew worked feverishly, converting the main observation module into a conference room with a circular table specially designed to accommodate both human and Vraxian physiology. "Are you nervous, Captain?" Lieutenant Seto asked as they made final preparations. Alina considered the question. "Not nervous. Determined. This isn't just about our station or even our planet. This is about showing them who we really are. When the Supreme Admiral's shuttle docked with the station, Alina was waiting at the airlock, along with a small honor guard representing Earth's major nations. They had decided against weapons, instead standing at attention in formal dress uniforms. The airlock cycled open to reveal Admiral Zax Vol, flanked by Sub-Commander Trell and Science Officer Velnera. In person, the Vraxians were even more imposing, standing nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer with subtle patterns of light. Their 4 silver eyes moved independently, taking in every detail of their surroundings. Alina stepped forward. "Supreme Admiral Zax Vol, welcome aboard International Space Station Alpha. I'm Captain Alina Reyes." Zax Vol studied her for a moment before responding. "Your invitation was unexpected, Captain Reyes. The Vraxian Empire does not typically engage in dialogue with pre-interstellar species. Then we're honored to be the exception," Alina replied with a slight smile. "If you'll follow me, Earth's representatives are waiting to meet you." In the converted observation module, President Chen led a delegation of 12 world leaders. The expansive viewport behind them framed the Earth in all its blue and green glory, a powerful backdrop that Alina knew was no accident. As the aliens entered, Alina made the introductions, carefully observing the Vraxians' reactions. The Supreme Admiral maintained a rigid posture, but the science officer, Velnera, seemed genuinely fascinated by the humans and their environment. President Chen opened the discussions with characteristic directness. "Admiral Zax Vol, we appreciate your willingness to meet. Before we begin formal talks, perhaps you could help us understand why the Vraxian Empire has targeted Earth for integration, as you put it." Zax Vol's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Alina was beginning to recognize as surprise. Clearly, he had expected pleas for mercy, not questions about motivation. "Your world occupies a strategically valuable position," he stated flatly. "Your species has advanced sufficiently to be useful, but not enough to pose any meaningful resistance. Integration is the logical outcome." "I see," President Chen replied calmly. "And how many other worlds have you integrated in this manner?" 47 planetary systems currently serve the Empire. "And how many of those integrations occurred without conflict?" Zax Vol's upper left eye twitched. "All primitive species initially resist. It is expected. All eventually submit. It is inevitable. So your process is always the same," pressed Chancellor Mueller of the European Union. "Arrival, ultimatum, demonstration, conquest. The protocol is efficient," Zax Vol replied stiffly. Science Officer Velnera shifted slightly, drawing Alina's attention. There was something in her posture that suggested discomfort with the Admiral's rigid stance. President Chen noticed it too. "Science Officer Velnera, would you agree with the Supreme Admiral's assessment? Is this protocol truly the most efficient approach to interspecies relations?" The question created palpable tension among the Vraxians. Velnera glanced at her superior before answering carefully. "The protocol has proven effective for standard integration scenarios," she said diplomatically. "However, each species presents unique characteristics that sometimes require adaptation." "And would you say humans have presented unique characteristics?" Dr. Bello asked, leaning forward with genuine scientific curiosity. "Your response has been anomalous," Velnera admitted. "Most species react with either unified terror or fragmented resistance. Your collective reaction of humor and invitation is unprecedented in our records." "Perhaps that suggests something about the limitations of your records," suggested Prime Minister Singh of India, "or about the nature of humanity." While the formal dialogue continued in the observation module, Lieutenant Seto was monitoring communications from his station in the command module. He noticed something odd: a series of encrypted transmissions between the Vraxian shuttle and their fleet. "Captain," he called Alina over a private channel, "I'm picking up unusual communication patterns. They may be preparing something while the talks continue." Alina excused herself discreetly from the conference and joined Sato at his console. "What have you got?" They're transmitting technical data about our station, structural information, life support systems, power distribution. It looks like they're mapping our vulnerabilities. Alina's expression hardened. They're preparing for a takeover. Should we alert the delegation? Alina considered their options. Not yet. Continue monitoring. And activate Protocol Trojan Horse. Protocol Trojan Horse was a contingency plan Alina and her team had developed in the hours before the meeting, a hidden subroutine buried in the station's communication system. When activated, it would begin transmitting a carefully crafted data package to the alien shuttle, technical specifications of the station that were subtly but critically incorrect, along with human cultural information disguised as routine telemetry. Back in the conference room, the discussions had taken an interesting turn. President Chen had steered the conversation away from threats and towards potential cooperation. Rather than integration through conquest, she suggested, have you considered integration through alliance? Earth could join your empire as partners rather than servants. Impossible. Zaxvol dismissed immediately. The protocol might benefit from revision. Velnera interrupted, earning a sharp glare from her commander. Supreme Admiral, these humans have demonstrated capabilities that suggest they may be more valuable as allies than as subjects. What capabilities? Zaxvol demanded. They have no interstellar travel, no quantum communication, no gravitational manipulation technology. But we have something potentially more valuable, President Chen said quietly. Adaptability. Creativity. The ability to look at a problem from completely new angles. These qualities have allowed us to progress from horse-drawn carriages to space stations in less than 2 centuries. A mere eye blink in cosmic terms, added Dr. Bello. Our technological progression has been exponential because of these traits. In the command module, Seto monitored the Vraxian communications with growing concern. Captain, they're transmitting automated assault protocols to the shuttle. It looks like they're programming it to seize control of the station if the talks fail. Elena nodded grimly. They're keeping their options open. Continue Protocol Trojan Horse and activate the second phase. The second phase was riskier, a return signal piggybacked on the Vraxians' own transmission, designed to infiltrate their shuttle's computer systems, not to damage or disable them, but to gather information. As the diplomatic dance continued in the observation module, a more subtle battle was being waged through the station's communication systems, a test of technological wits that neither delegation acknowledged openly. President Chen was making her final appeal to the Supreme Admiral. Before you make your decision, Admiral Zaxvol, I ask only that you consider this. In all your conquests, how many species have offered you new ideas, new approaches, new ways of seeing the universe? If you destroy our civilization or reduce us to servitude, you lose the very thing that makes us valuable, our unique human perspective. For the first time, Zaxvol seemed genuinely thoughtful rather than merely irritated. Your argument is not without merit, he conceded reluctantly, but it contradicts established protocol. Perhaps, Velnera suggested carefully, this is an opportunity to establish a new protocol, one specifically designed for species with Earth's unusual characteristics. In the command module, Lieutenant Seto's console suddenly lit up with alerts. Captain, he called urgently over the private channel. Our infiltration program worked better than expected. We're receiving data dumps from the shuttle systems, including their fleet command protocols. Elena hurried to his side, watching in amazement as Vraxian military codes, communication protocols, and even ship schematics scrolled across the screen. How is this possible? Their security should be centuries beyond our hacking capabilities. Sado shook his head in disbelief. They never expected to be hacked by a primitive species. Their internal security is incredibly sophisticated, but their external defenses against less advanced technology are practically non-existent. It's like they built a fortress with state-of-the-art security against armies, but left the back door open because they never imagined someone would approach on foot. Elena's mind raced with the implications. This information could completely change the balance of power in the ongoing negotiations, but revealing their electronic intrusion might also destroy any chance for peaceful resolution. "Download everything," she ordered, "but keep this between us for now. Let's see where the talks lead." As the deadline for Earth's surrender passed unacknowledged by either side, the future hung in balance. In the observation module, two civilizations, one ancient and rigid, one young and adaptable, continued their diplomatic dance against the backdrop of the beautiful blue planet they were both, in their different ways, fighting for. The unexpected defense. The diplomatic meeting aboard Space Station Alpha concluded without a definitive resolution. Admiral Zax Vol returned to his flagship with Science Officer Vel Nera and Subcommander Trell, promising to consider Earth's proposal for a modified integration protocol. It was neither acceptance nor rejection, merely a delay of the inevitable decision. As soon as they were back aboard the inevitable Dominion, Zax Vol called his command staff together. "The humans are more complex than our intelligence suggested," he announced, pacing the command deck. "They demonstrate concerning levels of unity despite their fragmented governance. More troublingly, they show no appropriate fear response even after our power demonstration." Supreme Admiral Vel Nera ventured, "Perhaps we should consider the possibility that the standard integration protocol is not optimal for this species. Their adaptability and psychological resilience suggests they could be valuable allies rather than..." "Enough." Zax Vol's skin darkened with anger. "I did not ask for alternatives to the protocol. The Empire has expanded through conquest for 10,000 years. We will not change our methods for one anomalous primitive species." He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare targeted strikes on their major military installations. We will demonstrate that their defiance has consequences." "At once, Supreme Admiral." Vel Nera exchanged worried glances with several other officers but remained silent. The protocol was absolute, and Zax Vol's word was law. On Earth, President Chen and her coalition of world leaders were meeting in the underground command center beneath the United Nations building. Captain Alina Reyes and Lieutenant Sato had joined them via secure video link from the space station. "They're going to attack, President,"